We've spoken about the social context being different, but what are the dimensions that we have to take account of and what we'll explore in these sections as they unfold? Well, number one, of course, is the social significance of education. Why do we have formal education? Is it to prepare people to work in factories or bureaucracies or the public servant or the professions? Is it narrowly aimed in this direction? Well, at the moment, that's expanded. The social significance of education now is for something we call the knowledge economy. It needs us to be networked. It needs soft skills. It needs collaboration. We need to be able to discover knowledge, to solve problems. So the social significance has become a lot broader than learning a body of knowledge in order to regurgitate it for the teacher or to do a test at the end of it. The educated person now is a core of the new society, someone who can be discerning, find things out, engage with other people, influence the world. So that's the first point. The second is, if that's the kind of learning we want, a whole person who is knowledgeable and can discover for themselves learning as well as learn from others, what kind of institutions do we need and where will learning happen? And increasingly we see that given the new technology that's available to us and the purpose of education, learning will be lifelong and life-wide. It doesn't stop with the end of formal schooling, and formal education will be needed as we change jobs and as we grow and need different skills. And it will happen anywhere and any time now. Some of it will be in formal contexts, the traditional classroom. Some of it might be in libraries. Other bits might be in workplaces, and other bits might be in a device that we carry in our pockets. So the actual institution locations of learning are expanding, and we need to understand the trends in that domain. Thirdly, then, if both these things are true, what are the tools of learning? So far, we know that the main tool is the book and the library. And then, of course, we have the textbook and we have the tests. They have been the tools of learning. But if learning is going to happen anywhere, anytime, it's going to be multimodal. It might come to us in a video or an audio. It might come through a device. It might come through some other kind of form outside of a classroom. The very tools that we engage with for learning are expanding all the time, and we need to be part of understanding how they expand and, of course, inventing those tools ourselves. The fourth dimension of learning is the outcomes of learning. So far, at least when I was growing up, and many of you are still engaged with a kind of learning where the outcome is expressed in a test, in something that you've completed, which can be evaluated with a numerical outcome or a letter of some sort. However, if we want people who are problem solvers, who are creative, who are lifelong learners, the doing is as important as the thinking that's represented in some kind of test. So how do we capture doing? Is it an artifact? Is it an observation? Those kinds of outcomes will be just as important as the traditional outcomes that we are familiar with. That will require learners to be adaptable, to have outcomes that show that they can apply their knowledge in different contexts, as well as in specific contexts that allow for evaluation and assessment in a range of ways. The fifth dimension of learning, of course, then is the balance of agency. If more is required of the learner, not just the consumption of knowledge, they have to be the co-designers of learning. They have to be involved in peer-to-peer feedback. They have to be reflective. So the traditional relationship between teacher and learner changes. Needs to change if we're to achieve the dimensions that have already been discussed. Sixth is the significance of learner difference. And I want to make this point again. Every individual needs to be regarded as a person who engages with knowledge in different ways, depending on dispositions, depending on knowledge they had beforehand, depending on aspirations. we've started using the word personalised learning to kind of reflect that kind of change, that each individual and groups require different pathways, even to the same goals. It's not that the goals might necessarily be different for individuals and groups. The goals might be exactly the same, but how you get there requires paying attention to who they are and what they desire and how to engage people. And the seventh dimension is the relationship between the old and the new. So although I've been talking, and we have been talking in this program about big changes that are happening in society, change doesn't happen cleanly. The old and the new sit side by side, sometimes are mixed together. So how do we make choices from the range of elements that are available to us, be they locations or the tools of learning or the outcomes? We need to be much more thoughtful and much more selective of the choices and the repertoires that are available to us in order to achieve goals for individuals and for groups and for broader purposes of education. And finally, that brings us to the role of the teacher. The teacher in this new environment, this new ecology, this changed sense of education has to be a professional. They're not just a public servant. They're not just a routine worker who goes through instructional patterns. They have to be collaborators. They have to be capable of working in teams. They have to be involved in self-regulation. And most importantly, they have to act as researchers that observe and modify their behaviours in order to achieve the goals that are required. This new environment requires professionals to work in teams. The one teacher, 25 learner, single classroom bound by walls will not produce the kinds of people, citizens and workers that are required for the world that is with us at the moment and is emerging. So these are 8 dimensions of new learning which are part of the changes that we have to address as educators.